And we're going to begin with these two remarkable interviews that I was privileged enough to be able to do with the families of two of the little girls who were killed in the Southport attack last July, the parents of BB King and Elsie Stancombe. The parents of Alice da Silva Aguiar told us that they don't feel ready to speak yet, but they're supportive of the other bereaved parents speaking to us on the programme. Absolutely remarkable to talk to them both. Lots of messages they want to send, but I think the first is they want them not to be defined by what happened to them. They want everybody who might have read the news stories, seen the television coverage, to know who their daughters are, who their daughters were. And let's have a little listen to the parents of BB King talking about their little girl.
What were her hopes and dreams?
She was quite fickle with it, really. At one minute she wanted, at one point she wanted to be a singer, one minute she wanted to be an actress, one minute she wanted to be a hairdresser. It would change.
It was, yeah.
We knew, well, we thought that whatever she did, she was going to move mountains. She literally was. Mm. And I really, really hope that this isn't all for nothing. Yeah. And in spirit, she can still have an impression on the world and on the nation, and she can help just the future, protecting children.
And Elsie Stancombe's parents says that they're going to continue to write Elsie's story.
You know, our town, our country has shown us nothing but support, compassion and love. We felt like we wanted to do that back. So we have started, and it was quite early on, we started a charity called Elsie's Story. We've just been blown away. Elsie loved the Little People, Big Dream books. And they're about, obviously, famous people, and it's, how their dreams have led to how they've come. And we feel like it's our duty as her mum and dad to continue writing Elsie's story for her. We told you she's the most loving and caring person. She would want us to do this. She didn't know bad. She definitely didn't know evil. We don't want Elsie to always be linked to the events of that day. She was so much more.
It is just heart-stopping, isn't it?
It's heartbreaking. It's hug your own children, your grandchildren. They sound like wonderful, wonderful children, and you can relate to them if you've got children, grandchildren of your own. And the fact they're not here. No, and then how do the parents begin to deal with that? It's heartbreaking. You can feel the emotion. Mm.
Just the embodiment of childhood innocence,
childhood joy.
Yeah, and so their life ahead of them.
Yeah.
She was going to move mountains. She was going to be a hairdresser. She was going to be a singer. She was going to be an actress. All the dreams that children have. Heartbreaking.
You walk past a school and you hear kids playing before school, break time, and you just hear that chatter, and it's the joy. There's no boundaries. They're just kind of wonderful, and yeah.
Yeah. I think the courage of the parents in speaking out is absolutely remarkable.
Extraordinary. Yeah.
And, they are wonderful people to be able to say, please listen to us.
Yeah.
Please hear our voices. Mm-hmm. They want to be involved in making change. They want to protect other children, make sure that this never happens again. They want to be involved in the shaping of the public inquiry. But absolutely the bottom line, the sort of the shining message that comes out is please know who our girls were. Know who BB was, who Elsie was, and let their spirits live on.
Yeah.
And I really feel that very strongly with the videos, the images, the photographs that they shared with us.
And the lovely charity they're going to set up, which is a lovely thing.
The inquiry and everything that goes on now has to be about them.
Yes.
They've got to be at the centre. You know, that's what it's all about, and it is to stop other people now. You try and empathise with people and put yourself into their shoes, think how they're feeling. I can't.
You couldn't possibly.
I can't.
You couldn't possibly.
This case, but the more they talk about it, probably the nearer you get. I suspect the only people who can really fully empathise are those who've also lost children.
We'll have a chance to put the issues they raise after we've heard the interviews to the Minister later in the programme. But Susanna, it's such a great responsibility to do these interviews. And I remember how incredibly upset you were, we all were, in August. But for you then to be the person who has to make sure that they feel as though they're able to tell the story they want to tell. How did you what was the most important thing in your mind when you were talking to them?
Just listening, letting them speak, spent a long time with them beforehand and afterwards. And, you know, in these interviews, you're led by the parents, what they want to say. And what they say, we can hear in full at 7. Well, you know, a lot of what they say, of course, at 7 and then at 8 o'clock as well. You know, there's a lot of things that they touch on. There's a lot of issues that they raise. And I think it's really important that I let them tell those stories at 7 and 8 this morning. And the parents of Alice de Silva Aguiar as well, of course, because there were 3 little girls killed. They told us that they don't feel ready to speak yet, but they are supportive of the other bereaved parents speaking to us on the programme. So more on that at 7 and 8 o'clock. But shall we move on to other issues? It's difficult to move on, but until we've heard those interviews, we can then deal with those issues then, can't we?
We can. And actually, I think what is actually very striking in the interviews, I've read the transcripts, haven't seen them yet, of course you were there, is that the parents, they're wanting to make sure that the people properly remember who their daughters are. But they've also got things they want to say about how things were done, how things should be done in future. I mean, there's a real sense of purpose in both interviews that they want everybody to hear.
Yeah.
And interestingly, one of the stories that just kind of struck me on the front page of the Telegraph this morning, online harms laws could be revised to avoid Trump's tariffs. I mean, the suggestion, Telegraph say that they have had an understanding, maybe Downing Street might want to weaken the regulation of what is on the internet. I find that very, very surprising. I would have thought at the moment, everything in our society, independent of Elon Musk and Donald Trump, actually what we want is to strengthen the way in which the internet is being policed because of all of the things which are happening to our children.
I really don't think any regulation of the internet and the Meta and all these platforms is going to have anything to do with the trade war with America. I just don't buy that. No. I just don't see it.
Downing Street is not going to go there. If anything, the regulations, the laws have to be tougher.
Much.
Because there is still terrible, terrible imagery which drives people to do terrible, terrible things. Now, of course, it's true that Elon Musk and the others, they're running big corporations. They want to make money. And they don't want restrictions on what they show on those platforms.
They say it's free speech, but
it's free profits.
It's poison.
It's free profits. They can monetise hate and violence by doing that. And they don't want the fines that are coming in if you break the law in the UK. And you can see Trump representing big corporations, American interests, just sees them as just sort of like selling cars or films or whatever else. They're selling internet services. But I think there is zero way that Keir Starmer would back off on this.
When you get to the heart of the actual story, it's Lord Young. It's the new Lord Young, Toby Young, from the founder of the Free Speech Union. He says, I predict a showdown between Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg and the UK government. Well, if he's predicting a showdown, presumably he says that the government is going to fight them rather than give in to them.
But I'm not sure he's particularly plugged into what's going on in Keir Starmer's policy unit.
No, I don't think he's plugged in. And the other thing is he's more on their side than our side.
Look, the thing is that over here there is, constant demand for our children to be protected from what's online. And then you see Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and others at the inauguration of the president. So, and we know that Elon Musk has this big free speech thing. We know that Mark Zuckerberg says that they're moving away from regulation. It feels like in the States they are pulling back from regulation, pulling back from protecting certain forms of speech, putting up firewalls. And they're so close to Donald Trump, you wonder whether that is the move in America and how we're going to try and keep those protections and strengthen those protections.
Well, I think we need to strengthen them.
Yes.
Not keep them. I think we need more protections. I think there aren't enough. I don't think it matters what's going on in the States. I think they'll do their own thing here. And I think there is a public clamour for tougher regulation here. Well, I really think there is.
The state is going to be a worse place, is becoming a worse place if you can go around and say, kill him, kill her, incite violence, just lie, smear people. It's going to be worse. I'll put up the vilest videos.
Yeah.
It's already happening, isn't it? Don't you just feel on social media it's changed?
Yeah.
It's more... There is more porn and more aggression just in general now on these social media.
We're not the USA.
On X, but we see it.
Yes,
but the internet is global, and I don't know if you saw over the weekend Kanye West, the sort of stuff that he was posting,
That's unbelievable.
which you kind of thought that would be taken down immediately, was up for hours. I mean, it just was absolutely unbelievable that
this is
that
where
was continuing to be allowed up.
This is where the clash will come with Musk. It's not over his sales of his Tesla cars or SpaceX. It is what he allows to be on his platform, in this case X, formerly Twitter.
Meanwhile, we have, people who should know better posting on WhatsApp groups. And we now know that, there were vile posts that led to the dramatic sacking of the Labour Health Minister, Andrew Gwynn, after the Mail on Sunday brought them to the attention of Downing Street at the weekend. He apologised for them. And now another Labour MP, a young Labour MP, Oliver Ryan, is 29 years old. He's the MP for Burnley. He was also a leading member of this private chat called Trigger Me Timbers. And it's all supposed to be sort of banter, but it's cruel remarks. It's thoroughly unpleasant. It's supposed to be jokes. As soon as it's printed in a newspaper, it doesn't look like a joke.
Well, I don't know how they thought it was funny in the first place. It's vile. And it's anti-Semitic, it's homophobic, it's misogynistic, it's insulting, it's racist. Racist stuff about Diane Abbott. She's a fellow Labour MP, for God's sake. What are they thinking of?
Oh, no.
So this must have been then a WhatsApp group that they thought was private, internal, no one would ever see it.
Labour councillors, Labour MPs, two Labour MPs.
What always happens, there's a group... but
they fell out.
They fall out, and then somebody releases it all. But you shouldn't be posting that in the first place. I just can't get my head round. It's Andrew Gwynn doing it. He was a health minister, is a kind of very gentle, considerate guy.
He was my parliamentary private secretary.
Yeah,
he is a family man.
He's his grandson's
such
carer.
A good person. There is something, isn't there, about these WhatsApp groups? Point one, does nobody learn that what you post on WhatsApp groups is so risky? But don't you think that something happens and people get into these WhatsApp groups and it becomes, as you said, Susanna, bantery, and people, they think that in the safety of this little group you can say inappropriate things and people laugh.
Joking that they want this pensioner to be dead by the election.
Not funny.
Another one's been run over.
About bin collections.
Let's hope she's dead before the election.
We've seen it with the police. Now, if it's a big group, people might be in it and they might not be posting it. Then you get, why didn't you challenge it? Well, if you're in lots of groups, you won't see everything, for a start. But then also, people think, do you keep challenging everything? But posting, if you post directly, you have to be responsible for what you post. And Andrew Gwynn is now, but I'll come back. I'm just astonished.
Yeah.
It's
I think the Andrew Gwynn I know is not anti-Semitic. He is not homophobic. He isn't racist. And he's posted terrible things. And you think, what were you doing?
Who's the real Andrew Gwynn?
Well, that's actually...
You've got to... I know, you've got to ask.
And look, he stood down and said, are these people fit to be MPs? If they're putting these views in a public domain, which it is semi-public, a WhatsApp group, are they fit to be an MP? I don't think they are.
And Andrew Gwynn's spoken very movingly, compassionately about his own mental health struggles in the past. He's not said that's anything to do with what he's been posting, because I heard you go. But you just think, again, I just can't see how that Andrew Gwynn I've sort of dealt with loosely as a journalist. Yeah. Is that Andrew Gwynn posting all those comments?
So a former Scotland Yard Chief Inspector says he should be investigated and prosecuted. David McKelvey, who ran investigations for 25 years, said the police must act against Andrew Gwynn or risk allegations of two-tier policing. Police officers have previously been found in breach of the Communications Act, which makes it an offence to send messages that are grossly offensive, indecent, obscene or menacing. He said ordinary officers face criminal consequences for similar or lesser offences. Why should politicians and public figures escape legal scrutiny?
Well, maybe he will face an inquiry. Maybe it won't meet a threshold for prosecution.
I don't see how he carries on. I'm sorry, I don't see why he's not putting those views in a public domain. They're racist, homophobic. He's not.
He didn't put them in the public domain. The question is a WhatsApp group actually a public domain?
Well, I think it is, isn't it?
Because...
it's a private conversation.
If he's saying that in WhatsApp, is that what he really thinks? Who's the real Andrew?
They are the equivalent of people chatting in a pub or a cafe in a corner. But if you overheard that at your workplace or in a pub,
you'd be suspended.
You'd call it out. You'd be suspended. Well, it would depend how many there are. Are you part of it? Look, I sometimes hear groups of big blokes saying things which I think are really offensive. Do I call them out all the time? No, I don't, because you probably get your head kicked.
But it certainly says any WhatsApp group you're in, you need to make sure it's not just what you write. Yeah. Being in that group, I mean, is that also a responsibility?
But don't we have to hold MPs, I'm sorry, to a higher account?
They are.
They are lawmakers.
That's why he's gone.
They're lawmakers, but should he carry on as a politician?
But they are. I can't see him in the current circumstances standing out in the next election. Well, I can't see it.
I know. And Oliver Ryan, 29-year-old MP for Burnley.
Been an MP for
another
5
leading
minutes.
member of the group. Posted more than 2,000 messages.
Charming.
He's already apologising for some of the things he has written down. I mean...
He'll be sweating on what he's written down, possibly what he's written down that we don't know about.
He's apologised for not calling out the other messages and says he didn't see a number of them, and also apologised for things that he says he deeply regrets some of the comments himself. Let's move on to the Conservative Party leader, because Kemi Badenoch is marking 100 days. Andrew, how do you feel she's getting on? She is very harshly criticised for her performances at Prime Minister's questions. Does that come across to the average voter?
No, it doesn't. And I can remember when William Hague was Leader of the Opposition, when Tony Blair won his Labour landslide, he did brilliantly at Prime Minister's questions. Most weeks made absolutely no difference whatsoever.
So that doesn't matter. But is she getting through?
It would cheer up the Tory troops.
It doesn't look like in the polls she's doing well.
She's not cutting through, and the problem is people aren't listening to the Tory party because they're not interested. Because they lost at the election last time badly, and they deserved to, because they were so hopeless, and people have got... they've got a long time to go yet before people forgive the Tories.
She's taken over at a very bad, tough time. It's an incredibly difficult job.
Yeah.
And she's not done well.
Meanwhile...
Interesting thing in the Mirror... Is it in the Mirror or the Guardian? The analysis, which says that the problem with
Guardian,
Kemi,
I think,
is that she doesn't like the media, and she doesn't like going on the media. She doesn't like doing television and radio interviews. I've got to say, if you don't like doing television and radio interviews, you're kind of in the wrong job.
Yeah.
Because
leading the opposition,
that's all you've got. And
really
it says something about her. Look, I kind of respect her. I'll do it my way. It's a long game. I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to rush to policy positions. But if your strategy is to say every interview will be done by Chris Philp, and I'm not going to do any of them, I'm not sure that's a winning strategy.
What people are saying is this, though. They're saying, remember, there was another woman Tory leader. In fact, 50 years tomorrow was the anniversary of Margaret Thatcher becoming Tory leader.
I thought you were going to say Liz Truss.
No, and she had a
May.
very bad first year as leader of the opposition. People thought she was awkward, odd, she was very bad with the media, very bad in the House, and she got there.
Right. So there's hope for Kemi.
I think there is. You've got to give her time.
Do you think Kemi Badenoch's the new Margaret Thatcher?
No, I didn't say that.
Exactly.
I didn't say that.
Exactly.
I didn't say that.
Also, it's whether Conservative
No, I didn't say
MPs...
that.
You came very
Whether
close.
Conservative
I didn't.
MPs allow
Actually,
her
Andrew,
that
can I just give you
time.
advice? Don't write what you just said down in a WhatsApp group. Don't come back to
I
bite
did
you.
not say she's the new Margaret Thatcher. There was only one Mrs Thatcher.
Tory MPs are beginning... Right, she only got a third of them backing her in the first place. There's not that many. But you hear them now... They ask, will she last? Will she last? They're asking her own party. And what's changed...
They say that about Keir Starmer too.
But what's changed is she's now got a big rival on the right of British politics in Nigel Farage and Reform UK.
But she's also got a big rival in her own party in the form of Robert Jenrick, who she beat for the leadership election, who is now essentially going out there saying... I think he's doing kind of campaigning at the moment on littering with another television news channel and rather giving the impression that Nigel Farage is the deal he wants to do, a deal which Kemi Badenoch says over her dead body. I mean...
And she can't sack him. Now, Keir Starmer can sack Andrew Gwynn, his health minister, lots of other people to come along. She cannot sack Robert Jenrick.
Meanwhile, this new book, Get In, by Gabriel Pogrund and Patrick Maguire, we seem to have reported on exclusives and scoops from it every day.
Yeah.
But there's a story about Angela Rayner saying Keir Starmer is incapable of running a bath. And
She's right for once.
She was asked about this on Laura Kunisberg programme yesterday. Let's hear what she had to say. She doesn't recognise it.
Not much of a denial, is it?
No.
It's not a denial.
No, it's not a denial.
It is not a denial. She said quite explicitly,
I think that book is very well sourced.
I admire her for that, though, because there was a time in 2001, Labour lost the Hartlepool by-election. Starmer was thinking of quitting. He's trying to demote her. Of course, it would have. She didn't put it in a WhatsApp message, unless they exist too. But you can imagine, he couldn't run a bath. You know, lost the by-election, trying to get rid of me. Frustration that happens in politics. You don't have to be Pollyanna or Anna Green Gables all the time, being excessively enthusiastic.
I think we can assume she said it.
The more serious thing is Keir Starmer's own chief of staff reportedly saying in the book that Keir Starmer's not a politician, he's an HR manager.
I know, devastating. That's Morgan McSweeney, who's the great strategist, HR manager. Not a very senior HR manager either, I'd say.
I always feel for HR managers because they are important, but we always run them down.
They don't do a popular job, do they?
Andrew, Kevin, thanks very much indeed. We'll talk to you again before the end of the programme, of course, after we've heard our interviews with the parents of BB and Elsie. Thank you very much.